All companies with a sales staff have one very important thing in common. It is always the same salespeople that are number 1, 2, and 3 on a consistent and ongoing basis. Every manager and every owner of every company knows this to be true. They say, yes, I have 30 salespeople, and it is consistently the same ones that lead the way and outsell everybody else on a regular weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. What they don't realize is this is one of the most important factors that can be ever revealed to us. If it is the same salespeople that are number 1 every week, every month, every quarter, and every year, it means one thing only. There is absolutely no luck whatsoever in selling. And if there is no luck in selling, it means it is a skill. Skills can be learned and improved upon with practice. All sales managers know they should spend more time training their people, developing their skills at closing and overcoming objections. But few spend as much time as they should. They know when they do training. They know when their people attend seminars, or study, or practice, or role play. Sales and performance and results always increase favorably and profitably. Why don't most sales managers train as much as they should? There are 2 major reasons. Number 1 reason is many sales managers are fairly new. They do not have the knowledge and experience to train their people how to close professionally. As a result, most sales training sessions involve product knowledge. Your more experienced managers, your knowledgeable people, your experienced people rarely have the time to put together 4, 6, or 8 hours a week and design the world's greatest training session. It takes a great deal of time and effort to put together an interesting, practical, and useful training session every week. As a result, they don't do it. Sales are lost. We hope the salespeople improve and sell more, but that's leaving a great deal to depend upon luck rather than controlling the situation and the results. All sales managers today, all over the country, are complaining about turnover. Turnover is a common problem in all fields, but specifically in the sales field. If there is turnover, it is vital that we make our people the best they possibly can. It is a proven fact that the most common reason for sales staff quitting their jobs is lack of sales. The pressure of lower incomes, of ego and being at the bottom of the pack and never knowing when they're going to be fired is not a fun way to work. The most common reason for staff quitting is lack of sales. Therefore, the most common and effective way of preventing turnover is making your sales staff very good, top producers, and improve and increase their incomes on an ongoing basis. Your responsibility as a manager, just as the title implies, sales manager. You are responsible for the sales of the company. Where do they come from? They come from your sales staff. Therefore, your responsibility is determined by the skills and abilities of your sales staff to close sales and overcome objections. There are no such thing as excuses. You can't blame your staff. If the sales are not there, it's because they don't have the skills and abilities to do those and achieve those objectives that you require. Therefore, you must take control of the situation and improve these skills and performances. One of the places this is done most commonly is at what are called sales meetings. Very few sales meetings are designed around improving sales skills. Make sure a sales meeting is like a sales training or a sales practice session. Why is it in professional sports athletes practice, musicians practice, actors and dancers practice? It's for one reason only: it makes them better. Very few salespeople will go out of their way to practice on their own. You know if they practiced, it would make them better. Since they're not going to do it, you must ensure that it gets done. This is how and why our Power 52 program came about. It is 52 lessons or 52 weeks. It doesn't matter if it's one lesson a week. 52 weeks or lessons of pre-designed practice sessions to improve the skills and abilities of your sales staff to close more sales. 80 to 90% of this program focuses on closing and overcoming objections. We do cover presentation and approaches and other factors, but most salespeople can learn those well. Where they generally are weak and where they lose the most and cost you the most is their closing efforts and abilities. When you run a sales meeting, there are three major factors that will determine how great a sales meeting is. Number one, is it useful? A sales meeting must be useful. It must be practical. When you attend any meeting, one of the first decisions you make as to whether you'll attend or not is, does this have any value to me? Number two, you want a meeting to be interesting. It must be interesting. Who wants to attend a meeting that is not interesting? If it is useful and you can present it in an interesting way, that is the start of a very good meeting, and you're likely to have one. Thirdly, and no less important, the meeting must have a positive effect upon the people who do attend. If all your sales meetings are useful or practical, interesting, and positive, you will have good sales meetings. This is what we set out to accomplish for you in the Power 52 program. And this is done in a very different way. Everything is explained in here in detail and clearly, but I want to review some of the highlights and add a bit that are important to ensure your meetings achieve all three objectives. You will notice color coding of orange and blue throughout these lessons. Your orange lessons are what are called problem-solving lessons. And you will do these. These occur every 3, 4, or 5 weeks, but can be done at any time. What a problem-solving session means is that you will take your sales staff and put them in groups of 2, 3, or 4, depending on the quantity of people. The first problem-solving session, for example, says, list your most common objections. Get your salespeople to list the 3 most difficult common objections that customers provide for not buying or for saying no. When they have done this, give them 3 or 4 minutes, take the number 1 most common objection. Then give your groups, all groups, the same number 1 objection and give them 10 minutes to work out 5 of the best answers to these objections. I'm sure you'll agree many salespeople will have difficulty finding and determining 2 or 3 answers to these objections. If they don't know the answers to the most common objections they're facing daily, they're losing sales, they're costing you sales and profitability. It's affecting your job and your responsibility as a sales manager. At the end of the 10 minutes, you can then group discuss the various responses they've come up with. We must get your people to think closing. Very important. This is an excellent tool to get involvement, to help the people learn from each other. After going through group problem-solving sessions and people learn answers to objections, they hear good answers, they make up good answers as a result of what they know and their experience. We then go to what are called role-play situations, but the role-play is done totally different than previously. As you know, no salespeople want to get up in front of a group. I don't care how well they know them, with one being the salesperson, one the customer, they don't want to be embarrassed, they don't want to show what they do know, and more importantly, of course, they don't want to show what they don't know. Role-play is done completely and entirely differently. In this situation, you put your sales teams in groups of 3s, or a pair if 2 are left over. 1 is the salesperson, 1 is the customer, and 1 is the monitor. You pick their most common objection. The salesperson will then try and close, and all of them will use the same objection. Give them 5 minutes to try and close. During that 5 minutes, the monitor has 4 very important functions. Number 1, he will keep the buyer on track. Stay with the objection that he faces. Number 2, he will count the number of times that the salesperson tries to close, because as you know, the more frequently they try and close, the more sales will result. Number 3, he will rate the salesperson's effort on a scale of 1 to 10. Take into account eye contact. Does he look down at his shoes? Does he argue or interrupt with the customer? Does he speak with some enthusiasm, with some life, or does it sound like he died 10 years ago? On a scale of 1 to 10, rate the overall effort, and of course, taking into consideration, did he in fact close the sale and overcome the objection? Fourthly, and most importantly, he observes and learns. Because at the end of 5 minutes, everybody rotates. The salesperson is now the buyer is the monitor, and the monitor is the salesperson with the same objection. 5 minutes later, they all rotate again. At the end of 15 minutes, everybody will have had an opportunity to put themselves in the customer's shoes and watch the other people sell and observe and judge. This is very important. It enables each person to learn from the experiences of the other, to see their skills, and to have an opportunity to hear new ways of overcoming objections. Also, watching is not good enough. Nobody can learn to swim by watching somebody swim or read a book. They must practice it. To watch somebody else close and say, that's a great technique, doesn't mean they can do it. This gives them opportunities to practice repeatedly the common problems they face on a regular, ongoing basis. At the end of 15 minutes, you as a group instructor can now talk to the different groups, who closed who over here, who closed here, how, why, and what did you do? If certain people do not close, don't worry about it, don't get upset. Better to find out now that they are not closing than in front of customers. There are characteristics that are musts when salespeople are presenting that'll determine how good their presentations are. If you were to watch your salespeople do a presentation of your product or service, there are 3 major factors or characteristics that you would be alert to that will determine how good that presentation is. Number 1, did they present with enthusiasm? All great sales presentations are presented with enthusiasm. Number 2, was it interesting? And number 3, of course, did it have a positive effect on the customers or upon the people to whom the presentation was made? On the same basis, when you run sales meetings, yes, they must be practical, yes, useful, interesting, and positive. But your presentation in a sales meeting is the same quality that you expect of your salespeople when they sell to a customer. Is your sales meeting run with enthusiasm? Is it interesting, and does it have a positive effect on the sales staff? All the meetings with role play and group problem solving will accomplish all these things if you are aware and make an effort to do these things. You will also find, and this is totally an option, there is a complete volume of transparencies. Many, many lessons, the regular lessons, have options, and I use the word options, of using transparencies with the lessons. The entire year's transparencies are provided for you. I want to illustrate a few ways of using these. Sometimes you will not have time to prepare a lesson. That is okay. You can leaf through the transparencies ahead of time, or actually when you walk in the room. If you remember the words who, what, where, when, why, and how, you could run sales meetings for hours. As an example, and these are illustrations of some of the transparencies. Transparencies are used as lesson recaps, reviews, or discussions on their own. For example, one of the transparencies read, and you have a choice. You can write it on a board, or you can just talk about it. An objection is any reason for not buying now. When you work with your sales staff and you want answers individually, always let them work their answers in pairs. Always create the team and efforts and learning and working together. So you might look at the transparency and realize it says, an objection is any reason for not buying now. You say to your staff, okay, what is an objection? You could run an hour on that. You will get many varied answers. You can let them write them out. Similarly, another transparency reads, any time is the best time to close. Ask your staff, when should you close the sale? Some are going to say as soon as you're in front of a customer you're closing. Others are going to say after you've qualified. Depends on trial closes. Get answers. Get your people thinking closing. One of my favorite transparencies, and I think you'll find the same for stimulating discussions, every salesperson has heard the expression, sell the sizzle, not the steak. Ask them if they've heard this. They'll all say yes. Now give them, again, an opportunity to work in pairs. Give them 5 minutes and tell them to write out what that means. Believe me, you could probably spend a week on this. Your regular lessons are quite different. Remember again, this is the manager's guide. Your salespeople do not necessarily see this. On this side of the page, is what is in the salesperson's workbook. You always see the questions that are in their workbook. On this side are the explanations and examples. If we were going to be teaching certain closing techniques, and I'm sure you've noticed are illustrated with handshakes, the close will be explained and examples of the closing techniques will be provided for you. And then you can discuss these with your sales staff. One of the ways you can do this is you can very simply read the explanation. Certain topics they will not know the answers to. Just read and explain what a closing question is, what objections are. Ask them if they understand. They will all say yes. Explain a close to them. Ask if they understand. They will say yes again. At the end of the 10 minutes of revealing all this to the sales staff, let them work in pairs, let them take out their workbooks and fill in the answers. It's one thing to say, yes, I understand. It's another to relate it back. You can use any lesson in a question format or forum. Many lessons have discussionary topics at the end of the lessons. You can use these on their own, or you can use them to reinforce the lessons. Always allot extra time after a lesson to let the salespeople fill in the best answers that they've heard from the rest of the meeting, because this can be used as a reference guide for them. Lessons 50, 51, and 52, the last three of the entire program, are totally focused upon closes. If you wish to run lessons on closes only, you can. Volume 1 is 26 lessons. Volume 2 is 26 lessons. Volume 3 in the management kit is the transparencies, and there is a fourth book, which is the salesperson's workbook. It's a copy of what they have in front of them. This program has 10 major uses that you must keep in mind. It can do more than just train your people on how to sell more. Number one, and that is number one, of course, it improves the skills of your salespeople to close and overcome objections on an instant and ongoing basis. Number two, it ensures all meetings are useful and interesting. Number three, it lets your salespeople learn without losing sales. Number four, this can allow you to test abilities before promoting. If you have somebody you're thinking of promoting to assistant manager or manager, get them involved with running meetings. See how good they are. See their interest. See whether they prepare. They say, oh, I don't like doing this garbage. Better to find out before you promote them than after. Number five, this can be a top motivator of your better salespeople. It's very difficult to motivate top salespeople. It is proven responsibility motivates. Let them get involved with the training. Number six, of course, it creates team atmosphere and team efforts. People will work together and learn together. Number seven, it focuses on closing. You must consistently make your people closing conscious, not work conscious. Number eight, it gives you a tremendous edge on your competition. They know they should train their people, but they don't. If you make your people better than your competition, you will outsell them and outperform them. A really big advantage of this program is sometimes your competition comes out with a very strong advertising or program or price program. Instead of saying, wow, that was good, they really hurt us, why not prepare ahead of time? Run a meeting using role play or group problem solving and say, okay, they've come out with this, let's work out the best possible answers to combat this so they don't take much of our business, or so perhaps we can take advantage of their programs. Number 10, of course, if you launch your own products, your own specials, your own services, be it price or advertising in any form, why not run meetings to ensure you take full advantage? Really, the number one advantage of this program to you as a manager is it saves hours and hours of preparation time. The guts and content of every meeting, every week, as frequently as you wish, is provided for you. Okay? And of course, it makes your work more enjoyable. There are certain general procedures which you should be aware of in using the Power 52 program. Number one, the lessons are designed for 30 to 45 minutes. Do not go longer. You will rarely cover everything. Don't try. If you only cover one point, it took that long, it must have been a good and important point. Number two, any points you finished, and there is time left, don't worry about adding more time. Don't extend your meetings. Also, this program is not designed for homework. Do not give assignments. Do not give homework. Work on running great meetings that people look forward to attending. The salesperson's manual is there for a reference guide should they be running into difficulties. It is certainly okay to repeat lessons at any time. You can do role play or problem solving at any time. You can, of course, delegate and have other people run the meetings for you. Whether you're on holiday, sick, or busy, consistency of training is vital. The biggest advantage you have in ensuring the success of this program, and I urge you to remember this word, flexibility. You don't have to do everything my way. Take into account your experience as a manager, the results you're getting, and your sales staff. You could role play every meeting. You can group problem solve every meeting. You can instructionalize every meeting. Do what works best. Just as in selling, flexibility is vital. Many sales managers say to me, boy, if only I could get some good people. Many have been waiting 30 years and they're going to wait another 300 at least. It isn't going to happen. Take who you've got and make them the best possible. When you don't need and look for people, that's when the good ones come your way. I'm going to give you a 10-step action plan to implement this program to get instant and ongoing results. Number 1, set your meeting time. Decide now, the same time every week or every other week. If you can, first thing in the morning, it doesn't matter. Allot your 30 to 45 minutes every week. I strongly suggest your first lesson should be group problem solving, which is lesson 4. Okay? Why tell them where they're weak? Let your salespeople tell you where they are weak. Do a group problem solving lesson, get them to list their most common objections and work out the best answers. Then, of course, number 3, go to that lesson. If they're having trouble with people who want to shop around or difficulty because you're very expensive, or that is customers are complaining you're very expensive, go to the index on that's expensive or discounting or price or shopping around or I want to think it over, and run the lessons on that particular topic. When you have completed those lessons, of course, make sure no matter how well you think they are doing, get them to role play, meaning practice what they have learned. Number 5, if that's their most important objection, get them to role play again at the next lesson. Number 6, go to the next objection. What was their number 2 most difficult lessons? What was their number 2 most difficult objections, rather? And make sure you work on the lessons on those. Obviously, at the end of that, role play again. Role play their most common objection. You role played in week 4, you role played again. When you go to the next objection, when you're through teaching it in your lessons, role play it again. Number 8, of course, work through the remaining objections. Go through the remaining objections. Number 9, my suggestion to you is use transparencies for variety and interest. And of course, number 10, you will then work through the rest of the book, taking into account flexibility in the form that I indicated to you. The whole key is very simple. The more your people practice, the better they will become. You want to run your meetings in a form that is interesting, exciting, positive, and creates enthusiasm from your sales staff. What motivates salespeople more than anything else is lots of sales. What motivates managers and keeps us most happy is when our salespeople achieve these objectives. Do not depend upon luck. People will not practice and improve on their own. You are a sales manager. You are responsible for their results. You control this. The tool for you to do this is the Power 52 program. Use it on a consistent and ongoing basis, and positive results will be yours on a consistent and ongoing basis. Thank you very much.